problem coming to third world country is sometimes they don't know what they need.
This kind of project is an opportunity to really make a difference in somebody's life.
You see people in need, you just want to help them immediately. The best way to help them is to give them some way they can help themselves.
I would do anything I possibly could to make this become a reality and show that we as Americans really are there and we really do care about our friends in Togo.
Salut à toi, pays de nos aïeux, toi qui
The children of Togo grow up learning to sing the national anthem, just like other children all over the world. The words of Togo's anthem are upbeat and positive. They salute the land of their ancestors, promise to fight tyranny, and ask God to help them build their country. In this tiny sliver of a nation in West Africa, there are children everywhere you look. Almost half of Togo's people are under the age of 15. So here, children are not only the future, they are the present. They are joyful, playful, and friendly to outsiders, and they have high hopes for the lives they will lead in future years. In that way, they are just like children in our own families back at home. But this is where the similarities end. When they grow up, Togolese children will find limited opportunities. They may live below the poverty line as many generations before them. They can expect to live only until their early 60s. They may be exposed to fatal diseases, pneumonia, malaria, HIV and AIDS, diseases that might be treatable if only they lived in the United States. The Ole Miss chapter of Engineers Without Borders has come to help. 2 professors, 4 students, all with one goal: use their expertise to make Togo's future brighter. Their marching orders from EWB headquarters: the people must want their help and contribute 10% of the overall cost of any project.
They may not even realize what their greatest needs are. They are very influenced, especially in the rural places where maybe education has been limited. They may not fully appreciate or understand sources of their problems and solutions to their problems that are very obvious to us. And so that is not the method that EWB would endorse. It's not the method that works for us as arrogant Americans to come over there and tell them exactly what they need to do to make their lives better. They wouldn't accept that, and it wouldn't be right for us to try to use that attitude. It wouldn't work.
There are needs all over the world, but the Ole Miss engineers chose Togo in part because of this man, Reverend Koku Loko. He's Togolese, but he studied for the ministry in the U.S. and developed friendships that tied him to Mississippi, specifically Oxford. That relationship was key.
We had already met him here in the United States because he travels here often, and he had been to the university. He had met us as Engineers Without Borders before. Once we got there, that was when I really got to see what he was like. He's a leader. He's a commander, too. He gets things done. And in a country where there is not a big skilled workforce and limited education, he is able to get a lot of things accomplished. He worked day and night for us while we were there because he was with us all day, breakfast through dinner, late dinner. And then he'd come back the next morning having worked some more to get us prepared for the next day. So he wouldn't stop, and he did everything because he just loves his country, loves the people, and knows that he has the ability to help improve their lives.
So the ingredients are in place: a need, people willing to work, and a helpful guide. Now the big questions: where to go, what to build, and how to get it done. This was an assessment trip only. The actual work would come later. But the answers to the questions had to come quickly. One possibility might be to begin where other people were willing to help, where other projects were planned.
This site will be used to build a hospital and a warehouse just behind me. Engineers are mapping out this area, getting perimeter and topography, and will use design software to decide what and where to build.
Helping people have been here before. Doctors Without Borders, church missions, volunteer agencies of all kinds. In the future, this land will look much different. Togolese from the surrounding villages will be able to come here for all kinds of assistance. The land was donated by local people. Reverend Loco wanted the team to meet one of the more unusual donors.
Yesterday he took us to one of the prominent landowners that had a lot of influence with his people. He happened to be a witch doctor, and so certainly an interesting character. You know, a happy little small man that didn't have many teeth and just had a lot of, you know, enthusiasm to make up for it.
And while welcoming hospitality is understood internationally, the hard facts must be translated, either from French, the official language, or Ewe, the language spoken in Togo's Vaugan region.
He normally uses this water to drink, but is there any other use for that water that he collects either from the well or from the roof?
Okay, drink and laundry.
Water. It's a daily challenge for Vaugan people. To have enough water to wash, cook, and drink, people travel for miles several times a day to distribution stations or to wells. Just getting a small amount of water to the surface is a difficult task.
You got it. Yeah.
That's a lot to do many times a day, though.
The engineers think providing water might be something they could do. They also think the already donated land might be a place to build. Now they must do what all engineers do before any project: take measurements and decide if it's feasible.
We're just trying to check the measurements that are already on the previous map, see if they're correct. So that's what we're doing.
The field that we went to visit is a place where ultimately one day we could do a lot of things. We could help build a community center, we could help drill and install a well, we could run an irrigation system there for crops, we could drill a drinking water well, build a hospital. So there are many future things we could do there. So we had to do an assessment of that property. We needed to see what kind of soil existed in that property, and so we used some rudimentary field methods to determine if it was clay soil or sandy soil, because depending on the kind of soil that's there, that makes a difference on how we build a structure there.
We have a prism, and this is a laser range finder. So we'll just shoot to the prism. It'll give us a distance. We'll write the distance down, and we'll go around the boundary points, collecting the perimeter distance of the property.
We traveled to some nearby wells where people draw their water, and we found out that a German non-governmental organization had come in just a few months before and drilled and installed a well that yielded high quality water. Well, that had been one of our ideas for what to do, but already a group had come in and done exactly one of the things we were thinking of doing.
Remember, the purpose of the trip is not merely to come up with an idea for a project. This must be a project that the people need and want enough to buy into with money and sweat equity. There's only one way to determine that: talk with the people. And to get to them, the team must travel over roads Americans cannot even imagine. And then they must cross the language barrier.
There's a library building, and also an information a computer center for the high school.
Okay. Wow.
A cyber cafe.
Okay. It was built for the high school.
For high school.
Okay.
What about in the past 2 years? What specifically has been accomplished?
Dans les 2 dernières années, qu'est-ce qui a été réellement concrétisé?
After the first day, things went very well. We had interviewed some villages, we had some good ideas. The second day, for several reasons, we had some setbacks, realized that some of our ideas weren't going to fit in. And so that left us the third day to really be in square one.
We want to make sure we're selecting something that will be successful. And for me as a Christian, it was time to pray.
Now the team knows what's going on here in the country and what's needed most by the people. They use times just like this here in a bumpy car to help plan what they're doing next.
What do we need to do today, this afternoon, and what do we need to do Saturday? So that by the time we leave Togo, we have an agreement on what the project is going to be and on what the community is
do another well, which is what they kind of said they wanted, and they've proved that they can handle. But if the Germans are going to come back and do another one, do we want to take that from them and kind of let them do it and maybe do something else?
It seems critical to me right now that we should try to nail down our decision on what project, what location, what village, what leader, what specific requirements we're going to have in the next 24 hours while we're here. Time is of the essence. So I feel like we need to sit down clearly and identify that with Koku and with all the decision makers that we have within our circle.
They didn't know that they needed a clean water, the benefit of drinking clean water. So whenever you come with the idea to educate. Most of all, you have to educate the people to tell them that this is what you need and this is how you get it.
But seeing things differently does not mean they're wrong. And not knowing what they need does not equal an empty life. One member of the team was Elsie Okoye, an Ole Miss engineering senior from Nigeria. Togo and Nigeria are just 2 countries apart, but Elsie cautioned the others to avoid seeing Africa as one big country full of problems. Africa is a continent, she reminded, and it's made up of many different and diverse countries.
When someone comes to Togo and sees only the bad parts of Togo and goes back home and says, I've been to Africa, and then someone says, oh, how was that? And then all you can say is, oh, it was this and it was that and it was bad, bad, bad. The person's perception, you said you went to Africa. So they're going to think, oh yes, Africa, all of it is like this.
Whatever project is chosen and eventually built, the team needs materials. For that, they have to get prices and answers to questions as basic as, what is available? So it's back to the capital city of Lomé, over miles and miles of bumpy roads, to a hardware store on a busy street.
We need to know piping, we need to know just basic tools for construction like towels, buckets, picks, tools in general. It really matters to find out what kind of construction materials and supplies are available in the country, because by the Engineers Without Borders rules, everything we build in that country has to come from materials and supplies in that country, because the whole point is for that community that's receiving this benefit to be able to build more later or learn with the materials that are already available. So it was essential to have visited a hardware store and find out what supplies were there.
So it's engineering candy.
The team needed good news. It was all fascinating, exhilarating, and ripe with possibilities, but it was exhausting. And even at the end of the day, the discussion kept going. The discussion coming from the women's compound was enough to drive the men crazy.
Alright, so look, the women, they tell us we need to go to bed, but they over here for like 2 hours talking all the women mess. You know, they got a lot of work to do tomorrow, so I'm gonna tell them. Hey, you women, you got a lot of work to do tomorrow, you better go to bed.
The strain of work can be relieved with a little exercise. In this country full of children, there was no problem getting together a pickup game of Togo's national sport. Within minutes, the children put on their new t-shirts and found a nearby soccer pitch.
Didn't speak a word of French, unfortunately, or Owe, and but you know, everybody knows the rules of soccer no matter where you are in the world, and we quickly got a pickup game together, and these children and their families came to watch, and I mean the children came to play, and we just were able to high-five and celebrate with them when we scored, and they played like it was the national championship.
It still seemed like the field was a possible location for a project. The land was donated. Other projects were going on here. But they had been here before. What now? This time, they went with a questionnaire drafted by Reverend Loco.
The questionnaire was truly a great tool. He knew the questions that we had intended to ask. We had sent them to him in advance. We had asked him to interpret every single syllable. I mean, he was our primary source of communication, he and his family, and another interpreter. It wasn't exclusively Koku, but we were greatly dependent on him to introduce us to the village and then to interpret what we are saying to the village, and then interpret their answers back, of course. So he knew that we kept asking and maybe struggling with questions that we wanted to find answers to. he just knew his people better. I mean, so he helped us to formulate direct questions that would help us understand their perspective and help them know what we were all about.
More than 50% do appreciate what I do.
Was that by a vote?
Est-ce que c'est par vote? Ou c'est une estimation? This is an estimation.
What I'm doing right now is that since we just created this tomograph map of the land, I want to take the four corners of the building so that I can also place it on the land to better map the area when we get back into the States.
Right now we're taking distances to a known point on each corner of the church.
More miles, more roads, and then the moment they all came for. At a village called Hedome, the children had a need, and EWB Ole Miss had the answer.
This is the schoolyard for the middle school age children from the Hedome village. The walls are falling in, the floors are damaged, these buildings are in disrepair and are desperately in need of renovation. The community wants to renovate these and add another building for the younger children.
There was something about them. They were energetic. They sat straight and they communicated with us very directly. Even though they were speaking Ewe and we don't understand a word of it, we could see a very positive attitude coming from them. We asked them out of the questionnaire, what projects have you worked on as a committee of development? And they said, oh, they built a road. They built a school building. And other villages hadn't talked about projects like that they had done themselves. Once we saw that they can do things themselves, then we thought, okay, this could be the right partner.
The engineers surveyed the schoolyard and made their plans.
We from Engineers Without Borders, University of Mississippi, USA, will work with you in the next year to help build a school for Hedome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Going back to build the school will take more than expertise. It will take money, lots of it. The team had an idea: buy some Togolese products and sell them at home. But you don't go to a store to do that. You go to the market. And it's not as simple as it sounds.
It is an opportunity for people who have very little to scratch out a living by selling their goods to Americans or to anyone else that comes along that has a little bit of money. And they are amazing business people because they know how to negotiate, they know how to manipulate, they know how to get the best price they possibly can for what they bring to the marketplace. For those of us who are a little naive about it, we are walking away stressed usually.
I gave some guideline. I want the guideline to be respected because what will happen, I know, you think you're safe, but you know how to take things before you know, even in that bag. So don't stop on the street.
It was a very lively experience. It's a little bit stressful walking down an alley in between a lot of vendors and they're all coming at you with what they want to sell. And you know that they so desperately want to sell what they have because they don't have a lot of money and they're really not selling these things for very much. At the same time, we were instructed very firmly by Koku to negotiate and not just pay the first price that they ask for. And the reason for that is because we also don't want tourists to be abused and being taken advantage of so that we end up paying really way too much.
Less stressful was a trip to the beach to consider just how far across the ocean they'd come and to leave their mark in the sand. And before the last goodbye, a trip to Koku's church.
In his love, in his vision, made a plan. And that plan was to reach down unto us and save us. God sent his only begotten Son, and I was so delighted that the children some of them quoted that verse, which is John 3:16. The Bible said God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, Jesus, to die for our sins. He died and he was buried, but he rose again from the dead. And God said that whosoever will believe in Jesus Christ shall be saved. Folks, indeed, that is a good news. That is good news. That shows that God has vision. Christ is what we follow. And he was a good humanitarian, did a lot of good for people. So as a minister, that is what I do, without any consideration of religion or race or anything. I'm there to serve all people. So that is my ministry as pastor. It means a whole lot of wealth to me, a whole world to my people. You yourself, you saw the people, how appreciative they were, and I'm so grateful. I don't have words to describe it. It just means a whole world to me. That is something I don't take for granted. It doesn't happen every day.
Main goal is just to provide them with something they don't have. I mean, that's anything they want. I mean, what EWB stands for, whatever we can help them with, what they want, that's what we need. That's what I want to do. It was an incredible learning experience. Seeing how these processes for these kind of projects move forward. A lot of wisdom involved. Glad to go through it. Glad to see the process. The most effective way to help somebody is to follow these processes. And I know it's hard, really hard sometimes, because you see people in need, you just want to help them immediately. But the best way to help them is to give them some way they can help themselves.
It meant my chance to help someone else, because with Hurricane Katrina, I lost a lot of stuff, and FEMA came, and I was in line with my dad getting water and MREs, and we were just living like that for about a year. So I know what it's like to really need some help from people. So knowing that even just showing up here gave them hope. So it meant a lot to me to get to be a part of this, and I'm excited to get to continue on and do some good for them.
I'm from Nigeria, which is 2 countries away from Togo, and I go to school in Ole Miss, of course. So one of the things I really want to do with my life is, when I'm done learning and gaining as much knowledge as I can, affecting the world in some way positively. So when I say the world, I mean like everywhere. Like, it's not just restricted to where I'm from or where I go to school. So coming to Togo was almost a bonus, because it's so close to home that I feel like I'm at home. So it was a chance to impact the world, but then almost my home. So it's like the start of my hopes and dreams for my life.
As an engineer, we work on projects every day, but we don't always have the opportunity to really change somebody's life in a short period of time. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And this kind of project is an opportunity to really make a difference in somebody's life. You can go to a village where the children don't go to a physical school because their building is not structurally sound and they are having classes under the trees. And you can go there the following year and build a school, and now they have a safe place to be that has sunlight coming in, circulation, air circulation, and a good environment for them to learn in. And that can really, really change somebody's life. And so this is an amazing trip to do, an amazing project to work on, because you can really substantially improve somebody's life.
The experience of being able to go to a country like this and take something that we have to offer, sometimes it's some engineering skill, or knowledge or training, but sometimes it's just simply, a heart for people that are in need. And maybe it's some finances, and maybe it's some just life experience, and the sphere of influence that we can bring to some place that needs a lift and some hope and some help. So the experience that we've been able to go through has been meaningful to me in a lot of ways, and I'm grateful for our students and our faculty that have supported this and that have come along and made this possible. Many just deep gratitude for the people who have donated, and it just it is an inspiring and rewarding thing for me to be able to be a part of it, to be able to carry this through and start what we finished, not leave these people wondering if we were really sincere, not walk away. That would be a tragedy to me. So I would do anything I possibly could to make this become a reality, and show that we as Americans really are there, and we really do care about our friends in Togo.